Hey YouTube, what's going on? It's NEACE. So this morning we're gonna do something a little different today. Just trying something out, just mixing up content a bit. I want to do general tips for top lane, and then if you guys like it, maybe we'll do some other roles. So I've got 10 tips today for top lane. This is basically just kind of like me chilling in practice tool and going over some stuff with you guys. So yeah, this is the 10 tips for top. You like that or no? And you got to tell me if you like that or no in the comments, or this whole thing is just the whole you like that or no doesn't really hold. So I'm here in the practice tool. This is my home for a lot of coaching and a lot of drills. Obviously with my coaching, I spend a lot of time here. I'm going to be going through a bunch of tips that some are obvious, but some are not. These are tips designed for newer players in top lane or players that are just not hitting the mark. Obviously the majority of you guys are lower elo, so this should help. But I'm going to give you my 10 things that I've noticed through just kind of like coaching, playing, a combination of that, that I really think that you should be aware of, outside of like the standard, like, you know, trade stance stuff. So tip number 1, not trying to get a level 1 lead or a level 2 lead or etc. So first thing I want to say about that is at the beginning of the game at level 1, a lot of players think that it's okay to just let their opponents do whatever they want. The game starts at level 1, whether it's an invade, whether or not you want to go into the enemy team's jungle or whatever and invade or what. If you're not invading though, we really shouldn't just be hanging out. What we should be doing is trying to get a level 1 lead when we're in low elo. The reason why is because most of your opponents are just kind of playing on autopilot, you included. We're trying to fix that and mitigate that by thinking about how we can get a cheeky level 1 lead. There's a couple ways that you can do this. The way that I really like to do it, honestly from either side, it's possible, but I like to think about if our opponent is leashing or is simply just late to lane. Oftentimes what will happen is your opponent will come through after leashing red like this. And you're basically allowed, when they get to you, you're basically allowed to just, right before they enter the rush, you're allowed to just full combo them. So in this case with Nocturne, and by the way, Nocturne, probably the best top laner in the role right now. Just I know I didn't open with that, but yeah. So right before they get to the brush, what you would do is you wouldn't actually auto. What you would do instead is you would Q auto and then back away right away. And what this is normally going to do is your opponent's probably just going to shit himself and not respond. And in some cases, if you're stronger than your opponent, like, you know, Nocturne is actually pretty good level 1, so you might not have to back down, especially once you land the Q. You might be able to just auto them all the way to tower, so it would look something like this. So you would just auto them all the way back to tower, hopefully not canceling autos like I just did. And right there, your opponent will be coming to lane with something like this much HP. And that's just simply by being proactive on the map and thinking about opportunities. This one's actually a gold mine spot for like Darius, Wukong, champions that just open really strong level 1, or Riven. This could be a great way to get an early lead. And what that's going to do is once the minions meet here in the middle of the map, your opponent won't be able to walk up anymore to the minions, because if they walk up to the minions, they're going to be so low on HP that you could just always touch the brush and like walk at them and do the same thing where you just kind of auto queue and like push them back to tower if you need to or whatever. There's other options here for level 1s. Opponents come through the river. If you see an enemy team invade and then you see the top laner is going like this and he's like coming up river, you can always do like these. If you know he's going to go this way, you can always sneak into this brush, do it the same way. You can do it here. You also can do level 1 opens where you just get like a cheesy lead here, because most top laners are late to lane. So if they're coming from blue side, you just stand here. If they're coming from red side, you just stand here. Essentially what's going on is you're just always thinking about how can I get like a cheeky auto or two. The game is often decided by autos. Like if you notice people like flashing away at the last second, a lot of my all-ins and just ability to snowball game hinges on the fact that I get every little auto advantage that I can. That's why my all-ins look a lot smoother than most when you watch these videos, or just other content creators. You watch videos where I'm just popping off, you'll see the reason why we do that is because we work for every little advantage that we can get, and it starts this early. And the same thing with level 2s. Obviously, as you turn level 2, one common thing I see, let's actually go ahead and spawn the minions and move them forward. So let's pretend that this is the second wave and I'm about to turn level 2. So as this minion dies, what you'll see a lot of players do is they'll randomly waste an ability. They'll just waste it like either on the wave or something right before they turn level 2. So when they turn level 2, let's say we turn level 2. Well, I don't have as good of a combo. Let's pretend my Q's on cooldown. I don't have a good of a combo because my Q would be on cooldown, right? So what we do is instead we think about how we can sync up our level 2. So let's go ahead and spawn the minions. So what we should always be thinking about is right as you turn level 2 and your opponent's level 1, obviously level 2 all-ins are really good. But most players really don't focus on them that well, and they don't try to make it a big trade. So here, as the minion dies, something like this is what you're looking for. So you would Q, which would level you up, and then you walk forward and just E. Right, that would be an example of a combo with Nocturne. There's tons of examples of level 2s in this game if your opponent is capable or basically capable of being all in or pressured. Wukongs do it well. Nocturnes do it well. Aatroxes do it well. Darius can do it. Renekton can do it. Pretty much any top laner can do it if you're confident, really, because if your opponents are bad enough, they'll let you go on them at level 2, not understanding that like level advantages are everything in this game. You get better base stats, an extra ability advantage, and just all that. So yeah, and then those level 2 all-ins, if you couple them with like an ignite, can be pretty devastating, especially if the wave's pushing forward, and that'll just win you top. So yeah, think about your advantages that you can get. Are the minions? I'm toggling minions and they're still there. Okay, this patch is bugged. So the next thing that I want to tell you guys, that was tip number 1. Tip 2, we've got 10. Cannot play into Teemo, Alawi, Darius, all those. So there's a couple matchups here that are like really tricky in top lane. Generally what I find, and a lot of the people that did my boot camp know this concept because they saw my exclusive boot camp content talking about this, but basically all it boils down to is offense, defense, and understanding that these particular laners require you to play really good defense and then all in them. And then in the case of like Alawi, it just has to dodge a lot of skill shots. But let me give you the example. So normally what happens if you're facing like a Teemo, let's pretend that the minion wave's here. Anytime that you walk up to farm, Teemo autos you. So if I walk up to farm these creeps, we'll pretend that these dummies are creeps. Actually, let's go ahead and spawn some more minions. There we go. Oh, okay. Minions are broke. Screw it. So let's pretend anytime you go up to farm a creep, Teemo's gonna auto you. Anytime you go up to farm a creep, Teemo's gonna auto you. So if Teemo autos us every time we farm, we have to make sure that we either farm from range, like so, or we sneak an auto attack here and then run away before he autos us, right? So the problem is most players, when they are facing a Teemo matchup, they just take random autos. Like they'll just stand around while Teemo autos the shit out of them over and over again. They'll just tank the autos over and over again. Now, what happens is when Teemo's autoing you, he's not pushing, the wave is building. So it's moving towards you and the wave's building and getting bigger. This whole time, Teemo autos you anytime you go to farm. Before you know it, your health's about right, like very low. And then the wave goes under tower. Teemo's here. He autos you, ignites you, you die. The key to this matchup and the key to Darius matchup and the key to Alawi matchup and all these matchups is understanding how they can pressure you. And just know that if the wave is pushing, like once you have to give up farm, the wave is going to slow push to you. Your job is to just not take any free damage. Like only take what you like. You can give away minions if you have to. If your health drops below, hold on a second. I just want to get my epic pen open. If your health drops below, oh my God. if your health drops below like this, you're pretty screwed. Because once your health gets too low, you could just be susceptible to an all-in. And not only that, when they're pushing into you and they have those level leads, it's like they have more abilities than you. Their ignite's stronger. Like, that's the thing that players don't understand, is that like some matchups you just need to give away farm. Their content, like there are times where you could just sit under tower and you could give up 30, 40 CS. It doesn't even matter, as long as you keep your health high. And when your opponent gets too cheeky and you've kept your health high, in the case of Nocturne, a perfect example would be something like this. You've kept your health high. As soon as you turn level 4, you jump in and then ignite all in on your opponent because you kept your health high. It doesn't matter the gold that you missed. All that matters is you keep your health high and you keep even with XP. So learn XP range and just learn to give away farm, and these matchups won't be as scary. And in the case of Alawi specifically, Alawi, you just have to dodge when you all in, and that's the thing that players mostly screw up, is that it's a skill check. Essentially, that's what Alawi matchup becomes. So yeah, like Teemo, Darius, Alawi, those are the ones that when I'm in low elo and I see those matchups, I know that the newbie top laners are going to feed. Like if I'm on a Smurf or something, or if I'm just coaching somebody, I know that if my clients play into these matchups, they're probably going to feed because they don't respect defense well enough. When the wave's pushing forward, they don't give farm away and they get too low on HP. 3. Terrible warding habits. This is not what you think. Oh yes, the missing XP. So everybody does this thing where, so let me pretend that we've got a giant wave of minions, okay? We've got a giant wave of minions and the enemy team only has like 1 minion here, right? So I find all the time that players go, well, I need to ward, right? And warding is cool. If you notice in a lot of my coachings, I don't spend a lot of time with low elo players on warding because I don't really think this is just going to sound like sacrilegious to the league community, but I actually don't think warding and low elo is that important, at least not in the way that these guys do. So what happens is a lane will be pushing forward, and as these minions are targeting this minion, they'll go to Nar and they'll take forever to ward. They'll literally like slow motion and like I don't know what they're doing. They're like on lock screen, so they're not even looking whether or not they're missing XP. So they're doing this. And like, I have to walk into the bush and then I ward here and then I zombie back. The problem with this is that you're missing XP when you do this. So while you're doing that, this wave is moving forward and you're losing XP to, like, minions are legitimately just dying as you move. So you're losing XP. I see this all the time with the top laner that I'm coaching is literally losing like 2 or 3 minions, which changes the entire lane, which XP is like one of the most, XP is more valuable than gold, guys. So if you're dropping XP all the time, that really adds up really fast. And before you know it, your opponent's like leveling up over you, even though you're on a push or something. I see it happen time and time again. And basically my tip here is that if you're going to ward, just instead of like randomly just leaving lane, like if you have a big wave, just stay in it and just either slow push a giant wave in or fast push and break the wave so that you can like actually just quickly drop your ward like so, instead of what players mostly do where they like zombie out. Now the other thing is, like, yes, there are important wards that you could place. So if you're facing like a Hecarim or a Nunu, you would obviously want like a deeper ward, or just a little bit more time to react if you think that they're gonna full clear something. But again, if you do this and the wave's in the middle of the lane and it's like right here, and you go to ward over here in Narnia, right? Well, you're just going to lose XP. So this is just too advanced for a lot of players. I would rather you literally just live and die on giant waves in low elo, because most of the time in low elo, that will be enough. Like you can just 2v1 because your opponents are just going to misplay, tank a bunch of minion damage. They'll auto, all the minions will target them, and then they won't go into the brush at the last second. And you could just fight them in those minions and win. A lot of my, my stream, viewers are familiar with me yelling at people to stay in the wave. That's why. So let's see. Yep. Yeah, and so that's how you basically avoid losing that XP. So number 4, Getting stuck in front of tower. So basically what this is kind of piggybacking off what we just talked about, where someone, for whatever reason, clients will always do this thing where I will tell them to push. And this happened literally like 2 lessons yesterday. And it happens at least once a week with coaching clients. So I'll tell them to push a lane, and they go to push and they will like use an ability or something. And then they'll do this because their opponent autos them, like the Teemo or whatever autos them. And they're afraid to like commit to the push. But what winds up happening is if they don't commit to this push now, and they don't actually get the wave under tower, like completely like crash or like crash the wave and move it forward and get it to where the tower actually targets the minions, they will instead just get stuck in this weird spot where more minions are like arriving. You see what I'm saying? And they just keep getting stuck here just outside of tower range. This is the worst thing that you can do in top lane. Like getting stuck here is just doom. But this is the worst, because all that happens now is you just get ganked, right? You get ganked from everywhere. Like there's just so many angles where you can get ganked now. So really what you got to think about is if you're here, you're better off just like tanking a bunch of damage and getting the wave under and then going to the brush and backing here than standing stuck in front of this tower. Because basically in top lane, this area is the, I joked about this in one of the previous videos. This is the what the fuck space. Like, what are we doing here? Every gank that comes this way is probably going to connect with a kill if we're just idling here and we're not just quickly pushing the wave under. And this yellow space represents kind of a dangerous spot even. So anything below that is like green. Because we can very easily, if a gank comes, like if a guy pops out of the brush here and you have your cooldowns, you could just run away. Like it's too easy. But if that same scenario happens and you're pushed way up here, then guess what? Like you're just dead. Like there's no way that you get out. And so that's why getting stuck just outside of tower range is an absolute no-go. If your opponent's freezing you and you really are stuck and you can't just crash the wave, then at least sit in the brush and just lose gold, but grab the XP. And this will also encourage your opponent to get bored. Like your opponent will just get bored and eventually will just start shoving the wave back out to you because he doesn't know where you are, right? And then you could just pull back and farm and play a little defense. Makes sense? What the hell? Photoshop? So yeah, getting stuck in front of tower. 5. Falling behind an XP because of ARAM. So everybody's been in this situation before where basically what happens is after they get, let's say that we're like winning top, all right, and we're level 8 and we've got a lot of gold, and you guys will be familiar with this scenario, I think. So we've got our stride breaker, maybe we got our boots, and maybe we're building towards our second item, right? A lot of players will let's pretend that this tower is gone, and you're perfectly capable of pushing into actually I could probably, can I break this tower? No, it's gonna take too long. You're perfectly capable of pushing into tier 2, but you can't, right? Because you think that, well, it's not even that you can't, it's that you won't, because you're afraid of side laning. You would rather just group with your team because this is comfortable. ARAM is comfortable, right? Everybody just kind of hangs out in mid together, and we just all 5v5 and flip coins in the middle of the map. So the problem with this is that if you ARAM a bunch, this whole time, side lanes are just leaking XP. So all that XP that got you to where you are, like you're just losing that, and everybody's just sharing XP in the middle of the lanes, or in the middle of mid. And meanwhile, we're just losing XP top and bot. So really what you need to do more of in the top lane is once you're winning in top, instead of just mindlessly grouping, understand that you have a level lead and you could just push to the tier 2 here, shove the wave, and then you can flank and you keep your XP lead, or you could take camps to keep your XP lead. But a lot of players, what they want to do is they just autopilot ARAM because it's comfortable, and their teammates will rage at them if they if basically if their teammates fight and die, the teammates rage at the guy that's split pushing because they're idiots, right? So basically what I'm telling you, top laners, and this is gonna go for mid laners as well if I do a mid laner 10 tips type of thing. you need to side lane more. Pretty much anybody in like plat to low elo needs to side lane more and is probably pretty terrible at side laning. You need to continue to keep your XP lead when you're winning a lane. And even if you're losing a lane, your opponent might just ARAM and allow you to just catch back up by just pushing, like basically just knocking this tower down and just catching up in XP while they ARAM and coin flip in mid. Because the thing is low elo players pretend that dying in mid and like dying in a team fight is the end of the world. But if that were the case, then games would always end at 15 and 20 minutes in low elo. And spoiler alert, they do not. So yeah, when you get your lead in top lane, you need to think in terms of side laning more often. And that will keep your XP up. And you won't be in such a terrible position like mid to late game where you're just even. Like top lane is an XP gold mine. Like you pretty much always have a giant XP lead in top lane in low elo in my experience. Number 6, teleport usage is terrible. So probably go ignite, or if you're Nocturne, you can go ignite teleport. But basically now you're probably wondering, well, then what is a good teleport? Well, I'll tell you, Pilgrim. A good teleport is something like this. So your bot lane's losing. We're up top. We're chilling. There's a ward right here, and there's a ward. We'll pretend that there's a ward right here for some reason, which this TP is actually incredibly common with my coaching clients. And so you want to TP to bot because a fight's breaking out. So you TP like this. Now, what happens when you TP like this is your opponents go, fuck that, and they run, right? And then you're like, no, but I TP'd, right? And that's terrible. We don't want this. What we want instead is we want our TPs. We want our TPs to be flank TPs. TPs like these are the real TPs. See this? This is where you want to TP. This is where you want to TP. Here. What these do is they make it so your opponents probably don't even react. And then what they actually do is they fight more. They all just blah, 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 right? And you just come down and calmly think about what the layering would look like of a flank. With Nocturne, obviously, we have his ult that we could use. But not every champion is easy to get kills with TPs as Nocturne. And even if you were playing Nocturne, why would you want to ult if you don't have to, right? So if you could TP behind somebody and just walk it in and get the free one, then why would we ever... It doesn't make any sense. Why would you ever TP into the middle of a fight like this? Your opponents literally can just walk away. And this happens all the time in coaching. So they TP, the opponents split up, and then they have to flash or try to follow it. It's just hideous. Most players screw that up. So probably just go ignite. If you're going to TP like a man. TP like a Chad Thundercock. TP like you big dickin'. Don't TP like a Jerry. All right? It's a very simple adjustment to make. So number 7. Not leveraging XP leads hard enough. Okay, so people talk about all the time, like, obviously I just touched on, like, you should be side laning. One thing I noticed is that a top laner will be, like, 3 levels ahead of a support, and they'll be sitting outside of a tower, split pushing. And they'll go, still stand like this, well, he's there. And they'll just give up, even though they'll be, like, we'll use this example. There'll be, like, 3 people bot and 1 person here, and you'll have a wave under tower. And the top laner has a massive level lead, and the top laner doesn't try to dive. Or just doesn't, like, someone pops up on his screen and he's under leveled, and they're both, like, both opponents are under leveled, and the top laner's like, well, I can't fight that. That's 2 people. Even though they have a huge level lead and a huge gold lead from split pushing. When you see somebody, the first thing your eyes should do is your eyes should go straight to their levels and what your level is. If you've got your full combo up and you out level people, you should be confident in taking it, because they're literally like, it's a fast paced like RPG. It's like World of Warcraft in 20 minutes, right? If you out level somebody, they're a mob that you take. You take the mob. They're an easy fight. So the problem is that most people will not do this, and they'll just walk away, and they won't actually be leveraging their lead, or they'll just see a fight with a bunch of low level people, and they'll just run away and slowly die. And it pains me, because it's like, dude, you've spent all this time getting big, and now we get to have fun and beat people up for that, because we focused on the fundamentals and our opponents are just running all over, right? So these are just gentle creatures now, and you could just double kill them if you're confident, right? But the problem is most players don't do that. And as a result, they make it a lot harder for themselves to carry. So think more about, do I have big level leads? If I do, now I can loosen up and try to make some plays happen. If I'm behind, then I can, you know, if this guy out levels me or whatever, then I need to back up. But if you're even in levels, maybe you're both fed and you're even levels, and you look on the map and there's like nobody else. It's just you and this fed person, right? And everybody's on the other side of the map. And you know, like, this is the entire team on the other team, and you're the entire team on this team. Try to win that duel. Like, step in and try to learn how to win that duel. Try to win that 1v1 with confidence. You have to learn to go for that stuff when you are big and you have those level leads, because most players don't in my coaching. How to split push and defend split push. So this is kind of the same thing, except I'm more concerned with how people choose to defend split. So let's say that we're losing, or we're playing a tank like Malphite or something, or Maokai. A lot of players will basically just let their opponent take objectives all the time while they just kind of just like float around in mid. Now, when you're playing a tank, you don't really want to be split pushing as much. So I could kind of understand not wanting to be in a side lane. So in that case, what you would do is you would basically push the lane, and as soon as it's like going, as soon as the wave's going under tower, then you just back off and group real fast. But it's like a newspaper route. Like, it's reoccurring. So once this wave goes under tower, enemy wave is going to bounce and it's going to come this way, right? So as you're in mid doing your thing, this wave up here is moving along, right? It's just moving along. And as you're like setting up an ult as Malphite, the wave is coming down, right? So what you need to do is, as you push in and group quickly and look to make a play quickly. Like, I'm Malphite. All right, is there an ult here? Like, is there a bunch of people here? I'm gonna ult. Bam, I ult. Fucked everybody up. And then as soon as that fight's over, you got to think, oh, I got to hold, right? I got to defend the push. And this is especially true with champions like Tryndamere, Fiora, and stuff like that. You make your quick play. Like, say you get ahead of Tryndamere and you're owning him. Every time you leave, this guy is going to push back out all the way through top. Like, he is immediately just going to slowly move the lane out this way. So what you've got to do is you've got to hold him, or if you're stronger than he is, push him all the way to his tower, and then you'll make a play. Or hold him, and then as soon as the wave is thinned, so like, let's say you get rid of these minions that go under tower, you would do like a TP flank or whatever. Go and make your play. Bunch of champions here. Malphite ult. Bam. Like, you make your play. You make your flank. And then go right back to holding top again. Like, walk all the way up river. And go right back to holding top again immediately. Don't waste any time. Because a lot of players will just float around too long. If you're going to leave your lane, make a play and get back to your lane. Again, a newspaper route. Like, we don't have time to just sit around in mid. That's never how this game works, and it's what a lot of players do. Right? I'm gonna wiggle in mid for an hour. It's not good. So, trying to sneak Rift Herald. Okay, this one's kind of a nuanced one, and I'm glad I included it, because it's actually a really common top lane mistake. So, let's say, for example, let me see here. Where's my Rift? So what players will do in the middle of a lane phase is they will go and they'll shove a wave and they'll think, oh, okay, it's time to Rift. The problem with this is that it actually takes a long time to Rift. Like, even if you have items, it's a very bad idea. The only time that you can really justify taking Rift is like when you're super ahead. If you try to do this, what's going to happen is your opponent's just going to push a wave to you while you're gone. And then what happens is you finish the Rift. Like, let's say we take this Rift off, right? And we get rid of it. We go back to top, and all of a sudden now for the rest of the game, we're under-leveled. This one is so insanely common. So here's what I would say to you. Don't touch fucking Rift unless you've proxied a wave once. So like, if you've like gotten so far ahead that you could just like proxy a wave. So a wave would pull off a tower. You would stand like right here. Take it quickly, like kind of auto, kite back, right? The standard like proxy stuff. Auto, kite back, whatever. You take the wave, and then you would, as fast as you can, you go this way, You like hit this little blast cone that's here, and then you take Rift really quick. And then you can like, as soon as you take Rift, go this way around and catch the wave without losing anything. Sure. But most players should not be, like, most top laners do not know when to take Rift. It's when you're really ahead or when you're able to, like, proxy a wave with, like, items. Like, because you're that far ahead. Think like Tryndamere with the lead, right? Like, he shoves the wave. He goes behind tower. He proxies the minions, right? He proxies them really fast. And then he runs to take Rift. That would be acceptable. Or maybe even, like, Yorick with, like, he crashes, like, a cannon wave. He can do it. But every now and then you'll see a top laner think, I'm ahead. And he's only like a level ahead. And he'll just take Rift randomly and throw his entire game out of whack. Don't touch the Rift. Stop leaving lane. If you notice, guys, a lot of these tips revolve around like, stop leaving lane so fucking long. All right. And the last tip for the day is playing champs and top that are out of your pay grade. So guess what? This is kind of a bonus video. I'm going to tell you the best champ. I'm going to write them down right in front of your face. Okay. This champ right here. He's the king of top lane. You pick Nocturne with Ignite Teleport, you're going to win most matchups if you take these tips into account. The next champ, Wukong. Good carry champ. Easy carry champ and a lot of fun to play. The next champ, Shen. Shen is cool. He has basically lane kill pressure and global team fight pressure, right? And the last one, you guessed it, the G-Man. The Garen. One of these 4 champions. You play either of these 4 champions and you're going to be in good shape. You play shit like Riven and Gangplank and I don't know, Fiora. Crap like that. You're going to be very, very sad that you did that. You can play tanks. Like you can play Malphite with Cheese Wheel and Maokai. You can play those champs, but those will have lower win rates. The 4 champions that I named will get you higher win rates as you learn them. That's why you guys watch my channel, to get higher win rates, right? So there you go. You don't want to be playing champions with crazy high skill cap in low elo because you don't even know these fundamentals yet. You've got to polish this stuff right now, right? You got to polish your turds first. Because a lot of you guys are making these mistakes that I just highlighted. There's going to be a lot of you in the chat. Like I deal with clients every day. Like I had a batch of just brutal clients the other day. And it was like, they all think they're better than they are. They all think they're doing the little things right. They all think they understand the game, right? But when I watch them, I see a ton of sloppy movement. I can get hyped about a Garen with good mechanics. One of my first clients was a silver, like, or low gold or high silver Garen, and now he plays in diamond. His mechanics look so much better because he focused on these like little details. Like I get hyped about good mechanics from like an easier champ because believe it or not, they exist. Like you watch a Garen in low elo, every time he all-ins, he misses his all-in. You watch a Nocturne in low elo, every time he Qs, he misses. Or every time he goes to ult somebody, and he's got like Stride Breaker or something. Let's just use that as an example, actually. He's got like Stride Breaker, right? And every time he goes to ult somebody, let's say that there's all sorts of mistakes that you can make. Mistake 1. We'll just use Nocturne as an example. People are like, oh, Nocturne is so easy. I could do it. I've seen clients do this. And then their opponent walks away as they walk forward, right? Because they don't know their ult range. I've seen this mistake with Nocturne where they go in and they ult the wrong way and miss their Q, or they Q the wrong way and miss their Q. Even though I think that one technically hit. They do something like this. They ult and miss their ult. Then they fear like without their Q. And then they like W late or something. And then their opponent like runs away and they could have killed them if they stride breakered, but they didn't do it. Right. And that's just Nocturne. Like that's just straight up Nocturne. I've seen it with Garens. I've seen people say, oh, I could play Garen and they're in like silver and they're playing and they're trying to play like Riven or Gangplank. Right. And then I put them on Garen and I see them miss their all-ins like by a mile. Like they ignite too late, they ult too early, they ult too late, like all these things. But Garen's actually one of the easiest champions to execute a combo. So if you can't execute it with Garen, then you can't execute it with Riven or Gangplank. Do you see what I'm saying? So a lot of players think that they're beyond these champions because the champion's so simple. They don't have the vision yet. They don't understand how many little pixels and fuck ups that they're making, like in every session, literally every session. So the champions, Shen, Wukong, Nocturne, Garen, those are really good picks right now is the time of making this video that you'll love, that you'll be very, very happy that you played because they have a skill gap and they have a decision gap and they can do the exact things that I just talked about with side laning and avoiding grouping and all that. They all do really, really well in those situations with little minor adjustments depending on the champion that you're playing. So yeah, 30-minute talk about the 10 tips of top lane. Did you guys like this or no? Let me take it back to the beginning. You like that or no? If you like that, leave a comment. If you want to see more of it like this, then just leave a comment and say you like that. And if you don't like that, you say you don't like that. I don't want to hear any other feedback, actually. I want my comments to be, I like that, I don't like that, or I'm going to rage. All right? Yeah, this was a fun talk. I hope this gives you guys some little ideas about mistakes that you're making or common errors that you might be making. And I know I didn't edit it. I really don't have time to edit these days when I do these types of videos. Bear with me, but hopefully this get the point across. Also, I'm a little annoyed that the practice tool is this buggy, but whatever. It's probably the practice tool being this buggy is a good reason that I have a job. So anyways, love you guys. Thanks as always for watching my content. I really appreciate it. We're very close to 200,000 subs. So like, comment, share, subscribe, all that stuff. I love you. I will see you next time. Peace.